Hey guys, welcome back to CLOWNFISH TV. This is Kneon. We're going to talk about the comic book industry, comic book shops, and kind of the future of getting your stuff into the hands of consumers. And I'm going to start with Marvel shutting down its digital comic shop. This was kind of surprising given that Marvel's made such a big deal about digital. Just a couple of days ago, Marvel was talking about digital. They were going to switch a bunch of their comics from print to digital, and now they're shutting down their digital comic shop. So we'll talk about that. And I also want to talk about kind of the future of comic shops and, kind of what is going on in the industry. I think because of the state of things, more and more publishers, more and more vendors are looking at a direct-to-consumer model as a plan B, because clearly just distributing your stuff through Diamond and hoping the comic shops stay open is not working very well for a lot of people. And kind of what prompted me to revisit this was this article on ICV2 about Funko. Funko Pops, Funko is down 18% Q1, but it wasn't the decline in sales at Funko that really got me. It was the fact that they're working on a direct-to-consumer web operation. Funko Pops have been propping up comic shops for a while now. They've been propping up comic conventions. You go to a comic book convention, any convention, any anime con, and you will see walls and walls of Pops. That's why it's kind of shocking that they're losing money. They're not selling as well as they used to. Maybe the fad's starting to die out. I don't know. But my takeaway from this was that Funko even is looking to bypass comic book shops and focus on direct-to-consumer sales. I gotta wonder if they'll do their own kind of like crowdfunding or something for limited edition Pops if they're not doing that already. I don't collect Funko Pops. We have a couple of them, characters we really like. I think on my desk here I've got Voltron and Optimus Prime. But it's, I'm not really into it. If you are, that is cool. But they are, definitely propping up comic shops these days. Funko Pops and tabletop games, right, make up a lot of sales for a lot of shops, and they're down. In Q1, they were down 18%, a loss of 5.7 million. According to its earnings announcement on Thursday, the sales decline was largely driven by Europe, which was impacted by the pandemic before the US. Funko has effectively written off Q2 there. Yeah, of course they are, pushing its entire planned release output into Q3 to preserve demand. Funko drew its own credit line to increase available cash. A lot of companies are doing that and renegotiated its credit facility, which resulted in easing of its covenants, especially in Q2 and Q3. Now, this is what's curious. Funko CEO Brian Mariotti said the company is building out its direct-to-consumer web operation. We are directing greater resources toward our e-commerce growth strategy, which includes building a robust online platform while developing a more powerful selling model and broadening our product catalog on Funko.com. They're not relying on comic book shops and retailers to carry Funko Pop. They're working on their own solution now. I know Amazon carries them and everything else, but this will be really interesting to see if Funko has a more exclusive product on their website and how they're going to do that. And this doesn't have much to do with comics, but it does. Because I want to go back to this comic book powwow that happened the other day. I think the site is called Comic Book News. And, Aaron Sparrow and I did a kind of a, gut reaction to this live stream the other day, and our initial reaction was it wasn't terribly good. I'll be honest, it wasn't very good. I was actually put off by the fact that Dan Shaheen kind of like stopped the conversation to address that your boy Zach, Diversity in Comics, Richard Meyer, whatever you want to call him, Voldemort, was in the chat, and that just like everything just kind of ground to a halt. And I actually cut out at that point, and I'm thinking maybe I should have stuck around a little bit longer because, it was worth hearing what these guys had to say. Now, I've been watching some other videos on this, summit. I saw Gary from Nerdrotic, who was in the chat, did a video on it. Your boy Zach, who we know was in the chat, did a video on it. And one thing that Aaron and I did not talk about, I don't think we talked about in that video, was Steve Geppe's attitude. Was basically, I'm going to be honest, it came across to me like he was backhanding these publishers. Like, you know, Gary Groth, who used to be one tough nugget, man, he was legendary temper, right? Gary Groth, but he got shit done. Steve Geppi owes these guys a lot of money. And he's just kind of like, oh yeah, it's gonna be fine. It's all fine here. Shut up. You're not getting your money. But the thing that was really shocking that he said, and Zach actually called this out, and it really is aggravating, is that his advice to publishers was to stay in their lane. Stay in your own lane, right? Keep people informed. We're all gonna work this out together. Of course, Steve Geppi wants publishers to stay in their own lane. He doesn't want them getting any funny ideas like DC Comics had to go do an end run around Diamond, because Diamond has to get their cut. They always have to get their cut. But what we're seeing is, you know, again, DC is willing to do an end run around Diamond. It might not be ideal. I know there are some complaints from store owners about the situation with Lunar and DCBS, but they are trying to survive. But you look at companies like Alterna that are just, they're skipping out on Diamond completely. They're not going to use Diamond. And the thing is these publishers right now could probably handle shipping books to shops. I mean, if there are fewer than 2,000 shops in the US, you hire a person just to handle orders to shops and you sell direct, and you don't have to give Mr. Geppi any money. So, you know, it was kind of odd to see the just kind of despair on the faces of a lot of these publishers, because they know that Mr. Geppi has them by the balls. Absolutely. He's telling them to stay in their own lane. Do not get involved in distribution. Let us handle the distribution. And things are going to eventually return to normal. Except they're not. They're not going to return to normal. They are not. And I think Funko realizes things are not going to return to normal either, because, you know, again, a lot of comic shops sell a lot of Funkos, a lot of GameStop sell Funko, and they're probably like, yeah, we got to come up with a system to sell direct to consumer. And I think that's probably going to be the next phase for comics is, you know, if not direct to consumer, you're still going to see individual publishers selling to shops. You know, Diamond is not necessary. I mean, it's nice that it centralizes everything, but it's not really necessary. And eventually there are going to be better alternatives. Or like I said, we're dealing with so few comic shops that it might just benefit these publishers, especially if they don't have a large line, you know, like IDW or Boom. They don't put out nearly as many books as Marvel or DC, that they could just hire a couple of people to just do all the shipping, you know, directly from their facility. I don't know, but it was kind of disheartening because the industry is not going to change. It's not going to change. But all I can tell you is, as a creator, you got to do what's best for you. You always have to do what's best for you. And when you try to do that, you're going to have people tell you you're awful, you're not a team player, yada, 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 yada. But, you know, if you got a life raft available and you can get off the freaking Titanic, do it. Do it, because I think a lot of companies are going to start doing that. So speaking of the Titanic, let's talk about Marvel. Let's talk about Disney. There's been a lot of speculation about Marvel, at least over here, because I really do think at some point Disney is going to pull the plug on Marvel entirely as a comic book publisher and just job out the comics to other smaller publishers because it's cheaper. It makes more sense. You know, we're talking about Disney that is currently losing $38 million per day just on the theme parks. You know, comic books are not a priority. And this was really shocking to see this. I got this in my inbox this afternoon, and I posted it as soon as I got it. They were just making a big deal about, you know, switching 8 April comics from print to digital only, which was very interesting that they're doing that. Like, yeah, we're going to sell these. And so what they'll probably do is they'll probably, you know, collect this material into a trade and sell it as a trade later. Yeah, which is what they said. Instead, the comics will end up in print collections later this year. And they're switching a whole bunch of these comics to digital. So we're thinking, okay, this is 2 days ago. Okay, Marvel's going to double down on digital. And then they announce they're shutting down their comic shop. Very interesting. So this is the letter they sent out, and then I'll talk about what I think Comic Book Resources had to say on it. As a fan of Marvel Digital Comics, we wanted to let you know that the Marvel Digital Comics shop at comicstore.marvel.com will be closing on June 2nd. After June 2nd, you will still be able to purchase Marvel Digital Comics and read your existing Marvel Digital Comics library via the Marvel Comics app and the Comixology store. Eventually, they'll probably just push you over to Comixology. To purchase Marvel Digital after June 2nd, download the app, visit Comixology. To read your existing Marvel Digital Comics library after June 2nd, view your past purchases, My Books. When you log in and sync your account, sync your current digital comic shop account with the Comixology account to continue to read your books on a web browser. Please note you can continue to redeem digital comic codes at marvel.com/redeem, yada, yada, yada. So they're getting out of the digital comic business themselves. Marvel's not going to sell digital comics themselves anymore. It's very interesting. I mean, granted, Comixology probably makes up the bulk of digital sales anyway, so it seems kind of redundant. But when they just made such a big deal about digital comics 2 days ago to turn around and say, yeah, we're shutting down our own store, just go to Comixology. To me, that seems like they're just looking to cut some corners, cut some expenses, cut some redundancies. And it's very possible that they could just be like, yeah, why are we paying freelancers and dealing with all that crap ourselves? Because all the other Disney comics, they just license them out. You know, I'm sure there are other comic publishers out there that would love to pay Disney for a chance to work on Marvel characters. They've tested the waters with IDW. IDW, I don't think, has the money right now to do a whole lot of superhero stuff, but somebody else could come along. Dark Horse could come along. There could be another player that we're unaware of that could come along, but I do have to wonder how long, you know, Marvel is going to last with Disney's current financial situation being beyond dire. It's really bad. I mean, they had a disastrous Q2 earnings call, and Q2 only had the very start of the parks shut down. Q3, the parks will have been shut down for most of Q3. It's horrible. So they are going to start cutting. We saw that they're already laying people off. We saw that they're sort of pushing some of these books like, New Warriors with Snowflake and Safe Space back to July, and maybe who the hell knows what's going to happen to them. So this is CBR. Marvel Comics has announced it's shutting down Marvel Comics digital shop. So they're not really saying anything else that wasn't in the press release, but, I don't think it's a very good sign for Marvel. I really don't. Just my takeaway. And I think things are going to change. And I think, these guys here, you have a room full of, I thought, pretty smart guys, and they just seem like they're just completely beaten down. I mean, look at this picture. This is on the beat. Look at this picture. Who's smiling in this picture? They just look sad and defeated. Yeah, absolutely. They look very, very defeated, and they are, because this isn't working anymore. It's not working. And I think if they're going to survive, forget what Steve Geppi says, forget it. Just, and I'm telling you, as if you guys want to go do your own comics, screw Diamond. I wouldn't even go there. I wouldn't even bother with it. There are absolutely other ways to sell comics. Comics are going to go on for years and years and years, but it's not going to be the same as it was before the pandemic. There are going to be better ways, I think, to sell comics. There might be fewer comics and fewer people who can make a living making comics, but they absolutely will go on in some form. But this direct market system, this monopoly, it's ending. It's ending. And hell, even the Funko Pops aren't going to be able to save a lot of these comic shops. So very sad. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later. Hey guys, thanks for watching CLOWNFISH TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.